When the teaser trailer for James Gunn's upcoming Superman released, I gave it a watch. But I wasn't going to watch any more of the footage or trailers they released after that, because watching too much of that kind of stuff can really spoil a movie's mystery, and I see no reason to do that for something I'm already planning on watching right when it comes out. But after seeing people arguing across the internet about this new first look footage Warner Brothers just released for the movie, I just had to go take a look to see what all of the hubbub was about. So, if you're like me and you want to avoid even minor spoilers on this movie, get the hell out of here now and don't look back. But for all the rest of you, let's get into it. Now, all cards on the table. I hope this movie succeeds, and I believe that it will. I want the new DCEU to be good and successful, and there are a lot of reasons to believe that it will. None of those reasons, however, are due to this movie's weird-ass marketing campaign. After getting a glimpse of the new logo a bit earlier, our first official look at Superman's new costume was the infamous Superman covered in dirt and lazily putting his boots on while the city's destroyed behind him photo that was making the rounds a bit ago. Now, people defended this picture like crazy, but can you really blame the people who are put off by it? I'm sure within the context of the movie, this image would make perfect sense, but we don't have that context. We don't know what that thing in the background is. We don't know why the hell Superman is so relaxed about it, apparently shooting a laser at the city. Sure, we can assume there's a good reason why this is happening, but without any of the context, our assumptions are equally valid to the person saying it just looks like Superman doesn't give a shit about the city. At face value, does this conjure up the image of what most people want and expect out of Superman? In all honesty, this kind of looks like a scene out of a parody of superheroes like The Boys, where they just don't care about innocent civilians dying. Think of how our first looks at the costumes of other contemporary Supermen have been. Henry Cavill, Tyler Hoechlin in Supergirl and in Superman and Lois, and even Brandon Routh returning to the role in the CW Crisis. Each of these are doing their absolute best to showcase how the people making these shows and movies want you to see their version of Superman in your mind. Either the classic heroic pose we all know, or the more action-centric vibes like Man of Steel's Superman was going for. Is this the image that they want us to associate with their new version of Superman? Just sitting around adjusting a boot? Well, if the later trailer gives us any inclination, then no, it's not. The trailer gives us a heroic and actiony Superman who carries the weight of the world on his shoulders, saves lives, and inspires people. This image does not give any of that. So it's very confusing to think why they'd even choose this one. First impressions are incredibly important in marketing, and despite what your reaction may have been, or mine may have been, there are plenty of people who are just going to write off this movie entirely just based on this very confusing image. Another strange thing is that this is not even a flattering picture of the costume. It's dirty, dark, and bunched up awkwardly. When we see it again in the first trailer, the suit looks great on film. It's bright, vibrant, and though it's not as tight as other Superman outfits we're used to, it fits the actor perfectly and looks pretty damn cool in my opinion. This initial image, though, did not convey any of that. It looks like a pretty good cosplay, but not like the first look image of a Hollywood production. I'm not even convinced this is anything from the movie. It looks more to me like the actor just sat down to adjust his shoe, and someone snapped a picture and they decided, why not use that one? Because this doesn't even really feel like the Superman we see in the trailer. This feels a lot more like just a regular guy adjusting his shoe. So if that's what it is, that would make more sense. Now, I've seen a lot of people online defending this image by calling it a working-class Superman, one boot at a time, but come on. Superman is not a working-class guy. He's a highly paid professional journalist and a full-time Good Samaritan with the powers of a living god. So that argument ain't gonna be convincing a lot of people. And now we come to the most recent footage they've released. This footage is also confusing the hell out of people, and while there are people defending it, keep this in mind. We've already seen a version of this footage in the initial trailer. A badly injured Superman lies in the snow and calls Krypto to bring him home. Krypto hops around happily and loyally grabs Superman's cape to bring him to safety. This is the image we've been given by them. This is how the scene plays out in our minds because this is what they specifically prepared us for with that initial trailer. A man and his loyal dog. Then they give us this extended look, and this image we're familiar with suddenly adds in Krypto violently lunging at Superman multiple times, causing him to scream out in agonizing pain. Now it becomes obvious very quickly that this Krypto is just trying to play and doesn't understand how injured Clark is. But due to the fact that we thought we'd already seen this scene play out very differently, and the fact that, again, we have no context for what is happening, it's incredibly jarring to just see Krypto seemingly attacking Superman like this all of a sudden in this scene. I'm sure that this scene, within the context of the movie, makes perfect sense. But we don't know what Krypto and Superman's relationship has been before this. So we don't know if this scene is supposed to be playful and funny or straight up horrifying, making the whole thing kind of awkward. An untrained dog with godlike powers is a scary prospect, and I understand Krypto being adapted in this way. But the last trailer showed him as a loyal good boy. But now we watch him breaking Superman's ribs and not knowing what the hell he's going to do to the poor guy next. Now, I've seen a lot of people online arguing that that's just how dogs are. Well, I've had dogs before, and they've never jumped on me like that. Maybe you're not training yours well enough, but you really should, because eventually someone could get hurt like poor Superman here is. So, our first official scene of the new Superman movie is Superman getting the shit kicked out of him by a dog, and I'm supposed to think poorly of people who are off-put by that. It's super confusing without knowing why he's injured, and it's especially confusing for people who do not know what the hell Krypto is, which is gonna be most people. Then we get Superman brought back to the Fortress of Solitude, and he's carried in to be healed by a group of Superman robots. Now, most people have no idea Superman has robots in the fortress, so this is something that is good to establish, but not like this. They pin him down to a table and shine the sun at him, causing him to start screaming out in agony. And then the music heroically flares and we get a montage of scenes from the movie? So first off, why do we transition from Superman screaming in agony to a little mini trailer? This is another incredibly jarring and confusing moment. Most people barely even know that the sun heals Superman and are hearing about it for the first time. Then as they're processing why he's screaming in agony, we just cut to a trailer? Of course they're going to be put off. And second, a bunch of robots pinning you down to an operating table sounds like an actual literal nightmare that a lot of people would have. Without more context here, your average viewer is likely going to be incredibly confused about what it is they're supposed to be feeling. Now, I know about Krypto, Superman robots, and all the cornier parts of Superman's lore, and honestly I'm very excited to see a version of all of that adapted into a Superman movie. But the general movie viewing public doesn't know what the hell any of this stuff is. You need to showcase this stuff to them in the best light possible. Introducing these elements of lore to people in an incredibly confusing scene where Krypto's attacking Superman, then a bunch of robots with capes carrying him into the fortress, shine a light on him, and he starts screaming is not the way to do that. My guess is they wanted a scene that showcased Krypto, Superman's suit, the Fortress of Solitude, Superman robots, and Superman being portrayed as not all powerful, and so picked this one without thought of how disorienting the lack of context would be. What I'm finding strange, though, is that this appears to be a deliberate part of their marketing. Our first look at Superman was the logo reveal, where we see the new logo covered in snow. Next, we see the trailer, where it reveals the logo covered in snow is because Superman is lying in that snow injured, likely subverting the expectations of those who'd seen the first image. And now we see this footage, where it shows more details of not only is Superman lying in the snow injured, but Krypto is a part of why he's injured. What this tells me is that this was all deliberate. They don't just set a date to release a trailer or new footage and then decide the night before what they're going to show. This is all decided months ahead of time, with whole teams of incredibly highly paid marketing experts. When they released that first image of Superman's logo in the snow, they already knew they were going to be releasing the trailer showcasing Superman beaten and then the footage of Krypto beating up Superman. This wasn't a mistake, this was a very deliberate strategy. What reaction they were hoping for, I don't know. They're giving their detractors plenty of ammo to whine about, and their supporters really not enough to work with to defend the movie. And for people in the middle, it's really just confusing. So, I know it's frustrating to watch casual audiences and hardcore Snyder fans rip this footage apart online and complain about things you think may not be worth complaining about. For the Snyder fans, they've lost their beloved DCEU. Of course they're going to complain. But for regular folks, you've got to try to think like they do. This is weird and confusing, just face it. No matter how you try to argue or explain it, it's just not going to change their minds after watching this. I think that the people in charge of this marketing campaign are not putting themselves into the shoes of the people seeing this footage for the first time. And I worry, because I really want this movie in this new DC universe to succeed. But people don't decide they're going to see a movie the day it releases. They decide months in advance based on all the marketing they've been accosted by. That's why these studios spend so damn much on it. And with the uphill battle of both way too many mediocre superhero movies and a well-known and relatively liked Superman being recasted, I'm worried they're already dropping the ball and this movie's quality isn't going to matter for how well it does. But that's just my thoughts. Do you see something I'm missing? Are the people in charge of this movie trying to start fights between Snyder cultists and gun defenders online to try to get Superman trending in some kind of brilliant Machiavellian scheme? Do you think your average yokel could follow these scenes and I'm overreacting? I'd especially like to know your thoughts on this footage if you consider yourself that average yokel. Let me know below. I'm just one incredibly handsome and well-read guy. I could be wrong. If you enjoyed my brilliant analysis, make sure to hit the subscribe and bell buttons so you never miss the life-changing observations I bring to the world of pop culture by commenting on these largely inconsequential topics. So anyways, nothing special here, just a quick little video of my thoughts on all the crap I'm seeing online. If you like this kind of thing, I'll make more of it. If you fucking hate this kind of thing, let me know, and I'll only do incredibly long and in-depth crap from now on. See ya!